What if comedy is about so much more than getting a laugh? What if it's one of the most powerful tools we have for changing culture, challenging outdated narratives, and helping more people feel seen? Lynn Harris is a culture-shifting producer, award-winning journalist, and author and co-author of 6 books. Her comedy and campaigns for social justice and gender equity have changed laws and conversations from Capitol Hill to NASCAR. She is the founder and CEO of Gold Comedy, which is a comedy school, professional network, and content studio where women and non-binary creators grow their comedy careers, build powerful communities, and make really funny stuff. And in this conversation, I sit down with Lynn to explore the surprising connection between humor, storytelling, leadership, and social change. And we unpack why comedy is one of the highest forms of storytelling, what it can teach us about resilience and about ourselves, and why learning to be seen, even if that's imperfectly, can transform not only our careers, but our confidence and our sense of belonging. And I use the word confidence very intentionally there. And you will maybe understand that a little bit better when you listen to this episode, because Lynn and I do talk about how there are these invisible systems that shape how women think of themselves, what they believe about themselves, and how they show up at work. You know, the terms like imposter syndrome and confidence often miss this bigger picture or a more nuanced picture. And we talk about how creating more space for diverse voices ultimately can change who gets heard. So this episode is really for anyone who's ever wanted to speak up, take up more space, become more like themselves, maybe pursue a creative dream. And we all have creativity within us. I really do believe that. And it's for anyone who, wants to challenge the belief that they have to fit some mold to succeed and to feel good about their life. With that, here is my conversation with Lynn. Lynn, I am so excited to have you here on the Humble Rising podcast. Welcome.
And thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So Lynn, I want to get right into it because as I told you right before we hit record, I think this conversation is going to be fun. I also think it's going to be really insightful for people. They're going to enjoy listening to it, but they're also going to learn a ton. So let's start with, how did you start? What's your story? How did you come to find Gold Comedy and the work that you do now, which seems to be extremely impactful?
Well, thank you. I was lucky in that I grew up with comedy just like in the air in my house. Like my parents weren't like showbiz people, but they liked a good laugh and they had good taste in television, so I was raised on Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett. I was raised by Lucille Ball, Carol Burnett, Miss Piggy, and the Jeffersons, all the classic sitcoms. And it didn't, back in the day, the people that we most saw and thought were the funniest were women. But no one ever told me, no one ever was like, that's a woman comic. They were just comics. And I'm not saying it was a different kind of golden age, because it wasn't. They were working twice as hard, get paid half as much, blah, 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 blah. But for whatever reason, in my own bubble, I didn't think of them as different or special. I just thought of them as the funniest people. And then after that, for whatever reason that I don't know, I was drawn to comedy, writing, performing. And fortunately, perhaps credit to my parents, I was also drawn to making the world a better place, social change. They also weren't necessarily, they weren't necessarily big. They were not. They were very socially sort of justice aware. But that wasn't their job. But for whatever reason, I grew up caring about making bad stuff good. And then along the way, because I love comedy and I love pop culture, I started realizing that there were people out there who had paved the way for doing them both, for using the power of pop culture to actually change culture, meaning to change what's normal, what's acceptable, what do we who has power, even who's respected, what system are we living in? Pop culture can be not the only way, but a very potent way of challenging that. And so all of those paths, were sort of started to come together. And so I've spent most of my career, including as a journalist, a producer, a brand builder, lots of things. Pretty much the driving force, the through line has been, how do we change culture to change the world, and how do we use pop culture and the fun stuff to do that hard stuff? And that's what led me to found Gold Comedy. I did stand up for a long time also, and that's what led me to found Gold Comedy, which was, my thinking was, what if we could make it easier? Look, comedy's hard for everyone. Everyone. The straightest, whitest dude, it's still hard, right? But what if we could make it easier for the people for whom it is kind of unbelievably still the hardest, which is everyone who's not that guy. And what if and that's an important thing to do, because comedy's a job and women are people. But it's also an important thing to do because, as we've just said, comedy is a cultural force. So it matters who makes it. So I thought, what if I could do it like on a daily basis? What we're doing is helping people succeed in their comedy careers and comedy related passion projects and side hustles. And that's great. And then what we're doing in the aggregate, and all in a place with no bro vibe. And then in the aggregate, what we're doing is kind of, pushing on that thing where we kind of normalize people who aren't straight white dudes doing comedy, which is not as normalized as you think it is, and just helping them succeed in a business that's still not built for them. But then in the aggregate, what we're doing is like, look, when you make people laugh, you make people listen. So if we just got like more of us out there making people laugh, there's more people listening to us. And that really is like ... cut to, I don't want to get too grandiose here, but that's kind of where we start to change the face of power. And in our own, it's not the only way, it's not going to happen overnight, but it's like, it's my angle on that.
Yes. Lynn, this is so interesting because, to prep for this conversation, I was reflecting on all the comedians I love. And I'm big into comedy, meaning I follow certain comedians. I follow their specials. I follow what they're doing. Ali Wong I know she also has a book, but like I follow her, and what you're talking about, I mean, I was talking to you about the storytelling, that they're really great storytellers and it's hilarious and so true. Like when you hear them tell a story, you're like, I totally get that. That was me. But it's also, they're raising issues that can change someone's perspective about culture and about expectations in society. And that's really powerful. I thought about that, but not the way that you framed it.
Yeah, and it's really true. And I'll even add some bonus things to that. It's true of individual comedians. It's also true, you mentioned this, of the storytelling, and not just like being on stage telling a story like The Moth, though that too, but like the stories that we present in culture, right? So I always think about the reboot of the show One Day at a Time. Which the reboot was great. The original was great too. The reboot was great. And for people who don't know, the reboot was actually with a Cuban family, and their grandmother had been born in Cuba, and so she lived there. And so the plot like largely was like, do your homework. My job is hard, like the stuff that we can all relate to, that everybody can relate to. So it normalizes this Cuban family as an American family. But then also, like, once they have sort of built our trust and we have a relationship with this family and we're friends, they start actually bringing in, like every so often, bringing in issues that affected them because of their immigrant status. And that's something where, like, if you're just watching it as a casual viewer, you could also be like, I just didn't think about how that thing would affect people in their everyday lives. And now I'm mad, those were my friends. And like, so it sort of softly adds that empathy and understanding and relatability, because you've already figured out what you do have in common. And then you have this moment of like, oh, they do have to live a different way from me. Got it. And the other thing that's kind of wild is, you mentioned Ali Wong, or you mentioned comics who talk about the power of comedy to when you bring it to like an important social issue, and we can talk more about that. Yeah. But what's also kind of wild is if when you just and just to use stand up as an example, although this is similar to what I was just saying about One Day at a Time, if you go to a comedy club and the next comic that comes out is, I hope, let's say, a trans woman of color, a queer brown person, whatever identity that maybe, I don't know your life, not you, but you people, I don't know your life, but maybe they aren't people that you interact with that much, and that's okay. But in that moment, and for those 5, 10, 15 minutes, the social contract that you have is that you sit quietly and listen to that person.
Hmm.
And not quietly. Ideally, you're laughing, but you're not talking. You're not talking over them. You're not talking instead of them. It's their time to talk and your time to listen. When else does that happen? Not normally in our, in our white patriarchy, right? That's not normal. That is like not a normal setup. And so even though, like, honestly, straight white dudes still kind of run the scene, of course, you're going to see comics who are all manner of different identities. And even just listening to them and enjoying them for you can be transformational, and also for them.
Yes. Wait, let's talk about this because it's almost like you are when you're doing stand-up comedy, you now have this I feel like platform isn't the right word, but you now have this, you're in this position of now I get to be seen and you have to listen to me, right?
Yeah. I literally have the mic. And
Yes.
then our Rolly. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I think about that, I think about people who, Lynn, they're like, I have this issue too sometimes where I want to be seen, but then I kind of don't want to be seen. I'm scared to be seen too, right? Like, I want you to notice me, but then I don't want you to notice me too much all the time because then you may see something or you may have an opinion of me or, all these. Then you think about like the worst case scenarios. So I'm wondering, I was thinking about this too as I was reflecting for this conversation of, because comedians, what I've seen, and I've seen like documentaries on this where they're trying out a story, like how do I do this so that people will laugh, or how do I tell the story in the right way? And it starts, I forget what the documentary was, but it was some very famous comedian who was battling cancer. And she talks about how, yes, yes. And yes, yes. And they show her, they show the first show, the second show, the third, the 10th, and how what you saw was the 10th, but she did nine and probably more iterations than that to get to what you saw on the special. Right. And so when I think of that, I think of, I mean, this is my perception of it, right? Like the vulnerability you have to try to do something and it may not go well, like the joke may not land or the timing may be off and people aren't laughing and you're like, hey, how do I adjust this? But also just this idea of trying and trying again and trying again and trying again and experimenting, and how that skill, like, I remember watching that documentary and thinking to myself, I don't know if I would have it in me to be so resilient and vulnerable every time. Get back up, try it a different way until you feel like you have it, because you're in with a different audience every time.
Right.
It's not like you're trying with the same people.
No, it's not a controlled experiment at all.
Right. So I think about how much I see this too. I think comedians are incredibly intelligent. They have to be able to read the room, know themselves, know where they're trying to go, have an arc to the story. Like they are very intelligent and they have to pull from this place inside that is different from, I think, a lot of other people in their professions. I don't know what you think about that, Lynn, but I just had
I think a few things. I mean, I that's really true of the craft and the process. I mean, a few things. One is, it's so common for folks who are not as thoughtful about comedy as you are to be like, to think that when people call what we do a routine, like it's anything but, like it's in development while you're watching. I mean, of course we have our go-tos and we have our set pieces, of course. So I'm not quibbling with the word so much as the like desire to understand what goes into that and how much work and how much minute iterating. I mean, the writing. I mean, it's just, that's why to me comedy is like the highest level. I'm also a writer. I was a journalist for 25 years and won awards and stuff. Like I know what I'm talking about here. Comedy is the most precise important kind of writing that it's as good as any other like Pulitzer Prize level. I mean, it's that good. It's that hard. Yeah. There's also what you're making me think about is, among other things, that we're still working for it to be considered like a truly high art form. Just because there's a 2-drink minimum doesn't mean it's not high art, That's number one. Number two, I think I don't want to diminish what you just said about Tig Notaro as one of the greats, but I will say, or about the process that you've correctly observed is the process. But there's also, and this is my way of saying that I want you and your listeners to actually think that comedy in some form, if they're curious, is accessible. Because think about it, because if you think about it, like, people do what in a way, everyone who like has a job, or at least has a activity, is in a way doing the same thing that Tig is doing every day. Like, you show up to work, you don't get something right, you do it again, and you don't think about it because you're used to it, right? You I don't know, you write a marketing email that doesn't get any opens. You're like, I'll do it again. Like, and I know, and you're not wrong, that there's a different level of like your personal like freaking cancer attached to it in Tig's case. But like, we're all kind of doing that every day. And it's not that comedians don't get sad or upset when they have a bad night. Of course, we're not made of wood. But there's some level at which it's the job, and you all are doing, like, you might have a pod where you're like, I wasn't that great today. Okay, I'm moving on, or whatever it is, or that didn't land, and so many of us do that in some form or another every day, and we just don't feel it because we're good at our jobs. And it doesn't mean we don't make mistakes or land everything all the time. It doesn't mean we land everything all the time, but it's more visible with comedy, and it is different. Of course it's different, but so I don't want people who are like, I don't know, I think I could, maybe, should I do it? Should I try? I don't want people to think like, I could never be like her, because she's not that different from you at some sort of human core.
Yeah. I think
we all deal with little failures every day, and some of them bother us and some of them don't.
Yes, I think that's true. I think for a lot of people, they don't want to be seen failing. I think that's the issue for many people.
Yeah, right. And you're certainly seen but I think comedians don't think of it as failing necessarily, because it's like, you cannot not work out a bit. Like, the bit does not emerge, like, it just doesn't. So it's not. And I also think now we're getting meta, but I also think, depending on who you are, and I don't want, failing is not a bad word in this conversation. Like, that's how you get better or whatever. Yep. But the fear of like how we show up, I think it's impossible to separate that from white patriarchy. And that's where we live, because we as non-straight white dudes are subject to a higher level of scrutiny and a higher bar for belonging. And so, like, that's like, to me, kind of a normal, like, that's like the cost of opening your mouth, the cost of walking into a room is like, okay, like, I literally walked into and this is not new. I mean, this hadn't happened in a long time. I walked into a room I was at a conference that is otherwise like a very diverse, interesting, like, creative, energetic conference. And I walked into a room that was all like, happened to be all alums of my college, and some were investors, some weren't. It didn't really matter. They were all kind of creatives or investors in some way, or entrepreneurs, whatever. Yeah, entrepreneurs and investors, basically. And I walked in and I was like, I was literally the only woman. And I was like, this has not happened in a long time. And when I was younger, I would have been like, okay, I would have sort of like shifted I would have like chameleoned a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, now that I'm like old and out of F's to give, I like walked up to the organizer. I was like, do you see what's going on here? Can you explain it? And he was like, well, so anyway, that was just a dumb anecdote, not dumb, but that was sort of just an anecdote that I still can't get over, but it was just recent. It was like last month. So it's good that doesn't happen much anymore. But anyway, we're always like, in one way or another, we're walking into rooms like that.
Yes.
All day long. And so there's I think that we also perceive it as harder. Well, I mean, it is hard because you still have to, they don't automatically respect and listen to us.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually is harder. But at the same time, well, number one, who cares what they think? And number two, it doesn't mean that we have to be better people inside. like it's their problem, not ours. It's not like, oh, if I could only like muster up more confidence and be a better no, it's that they made it we're just walking into spaces that weren't built for us all day long. And so I don't know if it's really our problem other than to like either not go into those spaces if we can avoid them, or be like, that's where we live and I'm just going to do my best.
Yes. Yes, I have this, and we're gonna go here, Lynn. I have this, I don't like the phrase imposter syndrome.
Me too. I hate it.
And I don't love when I don't have a problem with the word confidence. I have a problem with the way that it's used to talk about women by men, even by some women against other women too. You just need to be more confident. But according to like what standard? Or the whole phrase of executive presence, I do not like that one either. Because again, who are we comparing you to? What is an executive to, right? So Lynn, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thoughts on that are, for those of you following along only with audio, my face has now been replaced by the head exploding emoji, because that is exactly what I'm like. Imposter syndrome. You just walked into a room that wasn't built for you. Like what? Yeah, of course you deserve to be there. It's and yeah, I do not like putting the of like anybody can, well, almost, I think of certain people who don't need more confidence, but like it's not a bad thing to have, but it's it's making it our problem. And then
You
also
have this thing, like you have this thing you need to deal, right? And set,
and they sell you a bill of goods because they're like, well, if you could just be more confident, then you would reach out to all your LinkedIn contacts and you would get a job. That is not how it works.
Mm.
Confidence has zero to do with it. Nothing. It's, are you talking to people who think women should talk?
Mm.
Are you talking to people who think women should be leaders? And I know I sound harsh, and I know like,
Oh, you're down.
not all men, but
You're
like,
like, no, you don't sound harsh.
but I'm just saying, like, and many people, we live in we live in a culture of that. And so obviously there's wide variation with individual people who are doing hiring. And I'm just saying we still live in that world. And so to tell us that if we just had more confidence is probably why we have less confidence, because we're like, wait, but I have and I'm still not succeed. I thought I did all the things you said in the empower the women tips. I hate empower too. Don't even get me started on empower. Do not. It's banned from our brand book. Like like we don't say it ever at Gold, because empower. First of all, my friend and like amazing woman leader, not woman leader, but woman who is a leader in many spheres, Cindy Gallup, says, "Don't empower me, pay me."
Yes. Oh, yes.
And I'm like, I don't need I don't need empowering. I just need some people to have less power, frankly, or just like make more room for my power, bitch.
No, I see this a lot of like, you value me so much, pay me more, promote me, do the things that would show me that you want to quote unquote empower me. The other thing I see too is when people say, well, you just need some more, some more confidence. I always tell people, like, what does that look like? If I'm more confident, tell me the behaviors you expect me to emulate and to demonstrate. And that's why I think with women, they often get, I mean, there's research on this where when they're given feedback, it's often more about personality than it is about work product, right? It's like, oh, you need to be more like this, your personality. So you need to be, you're a little bit aggressive like that. Whereas a man does the same exact behavior and it's not viewed as that. It's viewed as assertive.
Or executive presence.
Exactly. And so there are it's because we operate in these systems. So when we're navigating them, we can tend to shrink a bit because we're like, well, if I do this way, then I'm perceived this way. It's like you're between a rock and a hard place. Sometimes.
Yep. Yeah. And so that actually is like, just to put a, just to go boop. That's like exactly what you made me think of at the very beginning, when you started talking about Tig Notaro and or like being afraid to show up. It's like, no wonder we are. They don't like us.
Yeah.
Whereas but think of it this way. If you think of to another full circle, it's like, well, if you think that comics have it hard, typically someone like Tig is walking into a room of people who love her.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
That's not what we're doing in on our day-to-day lives. And still we do it. We do all sorts of things where we fail and don't really care and just do it again, right? But Tig is walking into that's not going to be you when you start out doing it's going to be a while, when you start out doing stand up before you walk into a room of all the people who love you, but it's still hard. She's a person, but she knows that she's going to unless she does something wildly off key, which she's not going to do, she's going to get the love back no matter what she does.
Yeah. Wait, Lynn, how was it for you? Because you said you were a journalist for like, more than 2 decades. How was it for you when you started doing stand up?
So for me, obviously I care about like I have feelings and I care if like I have a bad set or whatever. Honestly, I did comedy for 10 years. I remember one bad set.
Mm.
And the only reason I remember is that it was a random Monday night at the Comedy Cellar, no, at the New York Comedy Club, whatever. And Wanda Sykes Hall was hosting. And this was in, I'm going to say 1994. So she was still hosting Mondays at and she completely like saved my butt, not mine. Her job was to bring the crowd back after I was fumbling and getting heckled. But I took it personally. I was like, Wanda Sykes loves me. She really stuck out her neck for me. Whereas really she had no idea who I was, and she was just doing her job anyway. But I don't really remember any others. And I'm not awesome. It's just that for me it's just this is the thing. Like I chose it because it wouldn't destroy me. Like I knew it didn't scare me that much. It's partly my personality, I guess, And also the thing that drove me nuts though was and versions of this still happen, of course, that it was still like interesting to be a lady comic, and so there was all the overt discrimination, like hey club manager, here are my avails, what do you got? Oh, we already have a woman on the lineup. And people or people or your stories about we had a woman last week and she didn't do well, so we're not booking women.
Mm.
Well, I have you on record and I'll see you in court, but so stuff like that still happens. But the specific thing that drove me nuts was and I did material. I wound up actually like doing material about this, that and we talked about like being between a rock and a hard place. They tell you to write about what you know. And so what was relevant to me in my life then was I was like dating and annoyed. But then I also felt like, I can't talk about this because that's what they think all women talk about.
Mm.
And I was actually I was wrong, and I figured it out, and I got past it because what I learned about comedy, which is not about women necessarily, is anyone can talk about anything. And most comics, frankly, talk about their weird families and annoying jobs. Like that's pretty much, but it's just everyone hones their different take, their different lens, their different persona. So, so there's something fresh every time. But it was specifically about women, that I felt like I couldn't talk about this thing that I was actually the funniest about because I was like, but I'm just going to sound like everyone else. I didn't. So, but then I wound up doing stuff. I wound up turning it into bits about like the double standards, of around women in general, that like, I don't know, like if you want to get married, you're desperate. If you are married, you caved. If you want to have children, you're like baby hungry. If you don't, you're weird. Like you cannot. There's no lane left.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So I talk about that stuff.
So, but when you start, like you weren't scared at all. Like you said, you weren't scared. Like even when you're your first, like you did one.
So your first one is the least scary because all your friends are in the crowd. Is the second.
That's a second.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't like swaggering. I didn't feel that I would die from not getting a laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like something made you say, I want to get up there and do that. Like
Yeah.
what was that?
I just knew. It wasn't like magical, like a light came down from heaven. I was just like, it was just kind of obvious to me. Like, I want to take a stand-up class and do comedy. I took a class. Like, it was all kind of low stakes. And I was like, yeah, I'm kind of curious about that. It was just like, I didn't have a plan. I don't have an urge to do, if I was doing stand-up now, you see how much work it takes just from that one through line with Dick Tara. Everyone's doing that all the time in non-friendly places, so I can't stay up that late anymore, but but I learned I love to be on stage. I do storytelling at the Moth. I do, things like that. I love to read the room. I like to teach. I like to be on podcasts. Like it's all the same for me. It's a little bit the same itch.
Yep.
So I wasn't that. I also worked hard, but I wasn't ambitious. Like I did nothing was riding on it. Like my goal with doing stand up was to do stand up. So I worked hard to get better at it because it's just more fun when you get better at it. And but I wasn't like, if I don't get into a writer's room or if I don't get my own sitcom, I will perish. Like I just didn't. And that's not a bad thing. I don't mean to make fun of, because I know many comics who were that ambitious and did great. And I just wasn't. So it was lower stakes. I don't know. It's not it's just, I have fears of other things that maybe you don't. This just isn't a huge one of them.
Wait, so what are the other fears, Lynn?
Oh, I don't know. Just
You're like, comedy was not stand-up, being a stand-up comedian or trying for the first time or second or third. It didn't seem like it. I guess maybe if you are a stand-up comic, like you have to want to do that. Like
it's self-selecting. Yeah.
you can't, if you're like so nervous and so afraid, then, and it doesn't make you come alive in some way, then maybe that's actually not what you should be doing.
Yeah. Although I mean, yes, I mean, it's not should, but yeah, totally. It's just, you could find, I mean, there are a lot of people at Gold who are like, love comedy. Stand up? What? No. I mean, and also including improv people who are like, I can never do stand up. I can only do improv because like freaking stand up, you're alone on stage. Improv, I have my team. And I'm like, improv? You don't know what you're going to say, so I mean, I've done some improv, but I'm not great at it. And like I cannot just like go hang with an improv team. Absolutely not. I would be petrified. So there you go. There's an answer to that. I would not do it. Even though I'm great off the cuff. I can host, I can do things, but not with like a whole team where we have to like make a story that's funny. What? No, I can't. It's too much.
Like it's real time, right? It's a story in real time, right? This is not, nothing's prepared.
No.
And you don't necessarily know the people, right?
You would. I mean, you would be with a team that you would, and you would have practiced together and built a vibe. And yeah, 100%. I was thinking of, I know there's these two guys, Josh and Aaron do improv. They are amazing at improv, and they get celebrities to come and just drop in and do like 3-person improv with them. And so they haven't worked, they might know each other, but they haven't worked at a team, but they're all working at such a high level that they can just do that. Like I could not. But there was something else that made me think of improv. There are a lot of people at Gold who are like, I love comedy. I'm not a performer. I'm a writer. Or I love comedy. I'm not even a writer, but I'm an editor, and I can like feel comedy. So I'm great at editing for the right rhythm and moments, but I'm not a writer or performer. I'm just an editor, or even people who do sound for comedy. Like we, a bunch of like, gearheads who do sound and lighting, and that's what they do. And that's their comedy lane. So like, you don't even have to like make the original funny stuff to be involved in some sort of comedy and creativity.
Lynn, what have you found even for that, right? People who say, no, like I'm an editor or like I'm a writer, but I don't want to get up there and perform, or I'm like sound and lighting. For people who come into Gold, have you seen journeys of someone who is a little hesitant, a little unsure? I'm curious, but like I'm not sure, and then kind of grow into something, or become a version of themselves that kind of surprises themselves maybe a little bit, of like, oh, I'm really good at this, or like I really love this, or I discovered something new about myself. Because when I think of those journeys, just not being as, obviously involved as you are, because you're way more connected to folks in this space, I think about how powerful it may be to be curious about something that you probably are good at or might be good at, and then finding your own kind of flavor on it and taste on it, and like how genuine you are with it, how authentic it is for you, and what that could mean for you just as like a human being. And so I wonder if you've experienced that and seen that kind of transformation for people.
Yeah, the first person I thought of, I wouldn't say it's surprising, but it's impressive. And there are others where it's more of a like, oh, I could do this. Her name is Rocky. She's in her 50s. She's a grandmother. She's usually taking care of one of her grandchildren, which we know from the Zooms, because everything we do is online. So, yeah. And she she's a retired high school art teacher. She was a volunteer firefighter, apparently. She also full-time takes care of her adult son who was in an accident and has like special physical needs that she needs to deal with. And she found us a few years ago because she says, she's like, I knew I was funny, but I didn't know what to do with it. Like I didn't know what a joke was. I didn't know how to write one. I didn't know, and I wanted to learn. And there wasn't a ton for her where she lives in North Carolina. So she came to us. Cut to, I finally met her in person last fall when she did her solo show, basically half an hour of full half hour of stand up about herself. And as part of a solo show festival, which is coming back, the Neurotica Fest run by Iris Barr, who also teaches with us. Big deal. She created a web series that she's beginning to work on, like the proof of concept for. She writes for the sketch team at her in Durham, I think, near where she or Raleigh or Durham, near where she lives. And we're working with her on some other projects because she's just a massive talent. And it's not, we could tell she had talent when she showed up, but she wouldn't have done all that stuff, and we wouldn't be doing some like special other stuff with her if she hadn't worked. She brought the raw talent, but she took every one of our classes. She took our stand-up class like 10 times, even though she knew the information. Like she took our stand-up boot camp class for the accountability, for the structure. Now now in the teacher, if we need a sub, we just have her do it. But she has worked so hard. And she still does her things. Like she's retired, but she still does all these other things and has all these people in her care. So she really has, and she does stand up all over the place back home. Like she really has put in the reps, and now she has this whole new life.
Oh my gosh, that's
Professional creative life, I should say.
Lynn, how old is she, you said?
51, 52.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it just shows you that also, I mean, I love how she said, I know I'm funny, but like, I don't like, and she was exploring and experimenting too. And then once kind of she had a structure, like I think Gold gave her a structure, gave her something to anchor into and be like, okay, try it this way. Here's what you could do. And then the possibilities seem to just explode and like open up for her. And so she just like full reins took advantage of it.
Yep.
That just also goes to show that it's never too late, ever.
No, that's the other thing. And there's a lot of people that I could tell you about. In the other example I was thinking of, we have a class called Build and Pitch Any Idea. And the person who teaches it, she was a producer on Broad City, Search Party, Inside Amy Schumer, no big deal. And the course has you start with like that idea you have, like that idea of like that, I don't know, if that could be a thing, that idea you have for like a show, a film, a podcast, like whatever it is. And it doesn't have to be fully developed at all. But it's for the people who have that idea that they can't get out of their head, their heart, their drawer, because they may not be in a comedy or entertainment space, and they're like, but legit, what do I do with it? Like how who do I talk, what do I even do, I can't do this. But then you get these, especially women who maybe empty nest moment, maybe they're kind of set in their careers and they're not going to quit their job, but they have just like more time and space. They're not hustling as hard. Maybe they, especially like, it's kind of still a post-pandemic thing. Maybe they're kind of like, is this all there is? Like, don't I have more in me? And so if they find this class, they wind up really deeply developing. It's not just like a class where you make a cool deck. You do make a cool deck, but you don't even open Canva till, the 8th meeting of the class, because it's so deep in the idea development part. And we have women who, have gone on from that. There's a woman named Billy who works in public health. She did a little comedy, works in public health, developed a show in that class, and that she wound up getting representation for. She has a comic attached to play the main character. She's, working on it doesn't magically happen, but she has the tools and skills to, and sort of the wherewithal to make it happen. And she's like a public health professional. She's, again, she dabbled in comedy. I don't, but like she's not, this is not a new job.
Yes. Yes.
But just, it's just a matter of uh, this creative space and like spark that you still have, actually making the commitment to like to fan it, to do something with it because of this later in life vibe.
Yes. But also being in, you said accountability earlier, being in a community of people who are also figuring this out, and the accountability when you have a class and you're meeting on Zoom, it's like, well, these are my people, like we're figuring it out together, and there's no shame. It's all about creating and figuring it out together and asking the
Yep.
questions, asking the quote unquote like dumb question, or the things that you think you should know. No, you shouldn't know, because you wouldn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And having feeling like that safe is that space is safe.
Yes.
Like, I think that's also a piece of it, is the community that you're creating with each class, and how people feel like, I can just kind of say this idea, and I don't know if it's crazy. Is it crazy? I don't know. But
Yep.
that's really special too, because a lot of people don't give life to their ideas because they don't know how it's going to sound to someone. But when you create a community and you curate it, where we're all sharing things and we're all being a bit vulnerable with it, and these are our ideas, like that can be very personal, right?
Yeah,
That can,
it's always been in your head. You never told anyone. And so, yeah, we're trying to, and we're not the only place, but we're trying to create one of those places that's not like the places we were talking about at the beginning.
yeah.
Where you actually walk in, maybe you're still a little nervous because you're normal, but maybe that you're not walking into hostile territory.
Yes, yes. And that's special, because I know with different communities I've been a part of, it's special when you feel, well, one, it's nice to know I'm not crazy, that I have these ideas. I don't know what to do with them, and I don't know how to develop them. Like, I've been in situations like that where I have this idea for something and I don't know what to do with it, but I know there's something there, right? Just don't know what it means. And so that's really, I feel like there are so many, Lynn, there's so many women I know who have like full time, they like have been doing their jobs for 20, 30 years, but they have these things that they are into, that they dabble, and they say, I don't know, I'm thinking of, like I'm thinking of doing this show. Like if they play the guitar, or they sing, or something creative. I'm like, you should go do it. You should go do it. You should go do it. And they're like, I don't know, and they get, because there is this fear of going deeper. I know a few people who are, again, extremely creative, and I think everyone's creative in certain ways, but two friends in particular who are writers and really want to write like a screenplay, and they're figuring this out. Like they're also acting, and so they're figuring this out, and they have these ideas that they will share with me, and concepts, and I'm like, have you taken a class? Like, I'm thinking, have you taken a class? I don't know. But it's these things that there's so much inside of us that we won't know the full potential of, or the full picture of, until we join something like Gold, right? Where it's like, okay, here's this phase, go, like just try it out, experiment, get expert advice, and be with people who get it, like who are doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, and like we do have tons of members who like come from comedy and are staying in comedy, but just the like privilege it is to find these people who like got a story to tell or a perspective to share, and who wouldn't otherwise have that solo show or create that web series, and being like, now your full glory is released out into the world, and not that it wasn't before in another area, but now that story or that thing is a thing, whether it's a TV idea that's being developed, or, whatever it is that's going to the next level, or, I said solo show or stand up, now it's like out in the world. That's why, to go back to things that annoy us, that's why we don't only talk about building skills, because it's like what you were saying. Well, what does confidence look like? Like, what am I doing? And it's the same thing. It's not just like, we built you some comedy skills, have fun. It's like, well, what are you doing with them when you make it? When are you going to be on stage? What do you, oh, you just want to apply it to your like keynotes that you do for work? Great. That's the thing too. Like, what, but like, skills just sit there unless you're like doing something. And so that's what we really encourage. And then then we have these women who are like, I didn't know I could do that.
I mean, that must be such an inherently rewarding part of your work, though, Lynn, is to see women who are like, I did that. I didn't know I could do that. And then some women who are like, I had a feeling I could, but now I know.
Now I know. Someone, even just today, we just saw a Substack that we didn't know someone had written. We were like that. We also have really easy things. Like, if your listeners, in case you're like, I don't have a pilot, so and we have a free thing that we do every so often that's starting in August again. And we do it with regularity, called 30 by 30, and you basically write a joke a day. That's it. And we give you prompts. And we have a community platform so you can like see other people's jokes and stuff. And we had someone named Pam do it last time, and we didn't know she wrote a whole Substack about it. Like, our point was that if you do this, some of the jokes will not ever see the light of day. Like, it doesn't matter. And we also tell people, we don't care. Post them anyway. Like, it doesn't matter. Just post what you write. This is not about writing the best joke every day. It's about writing something every day. And it's about building a creative habit. And so Pam like wrote this whole Substack about how she builds a creative habit by doing this thing with us, this free 10 minutes a day thing that was transformative. And I mean, there are many things, of course, we're not the only ones. We modeled that on many other things that are like that. But yeah, like, even so, it's not just like, I'm the star of my own TV series that I wrote, and it's not even that big. It could be just like writing one joke a day, and most of them bad. And that, or most of them, I don't want to say they're bad, but most of them not fully formed, whatever. Most of them you'll never use. But like that so something as light, LITE, as that can still be transformative. So, and like, the stakes are so low.
Yes.
There's nothing, you have nothing to lose by posting like, I'm not a fan, but here's my joke,
Yeah. It also changes. That's a great example, because when you get someone, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron. I've done the program. I have friends that have done it as well. And just creating a different habit, like saying, hey, for 30 days, for 6 weeks, you're going to do this thing. Every day you're going to do morning pages. You're going to write 3 full pages you're just going to do stream of consciousness journaling every morning. Doing that program, that's why I journal the way that I do now.
Yeah.
I may not journal every day anymore, but that got me into the practice of seeing the benefit and how it felt to journal. And now I'm like, oh, I understand in my body what that feels like and the benefits. And so now I'm going to do a different practice. So I feel like so often people have to do something different to believe something different. I often find, like, since the belief can't change before you're doing something different. And so that's an example like that, kind of 30 prompts. Wait, Lynn, when does that start in August?
August 1st. Well, you can sign up now and be ready. And then we start dropping the prompts on August 1st.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Lynn, so I want people to know where they can find you, where they can connect with you. How can they join Gold Comedy? How can they get access to all the things?
Thank you for asking. The easiest is to find our website, Gold Comedy, and learn more and sign up for our newsletter. And also to follow us at Gold Comedy on Instagram. And even if you just want to laugh, we have teams that make digital sketch, sketch funny videos, and they're all women and non-binary creators. So like, they're not going to be sexist. And so they're all really, really funny. And we have a new web series actually called The Last Door in Melrose that has 2 episodes out. That's hilarious and beautifully produced. I'm like, damn, this looks like television. Like, how did you just do that? So that's out. So you could just also consume. But we do have new classes starting all the time. And the way it works is that you join for the year by year. So when you pay, so you're a member, and that really underscores the sense and power of community. That it's a constant. And then so there's still stuff to do, like between classes. We have 2 open mics a week. We have writers' rooms. We have productivity hours where you just get on a Zoom and work. We have every Wednesday we have meet and greets with comedy celebrities and experts and pros. Like, there's always, there's something all the time. So, and you can start with a 2-week free trial. You can start with one of our free activities. You can just come to we have public workshops pretty frequently, and public open mics also. that if you just want to taste, like it's pretty easy to say to jump in, even just, get your toes wet.
Yes. Oh, I love this. I'll drop some of those links in the show notes too, so people
Yeah.
can access it very
Please, and send you a little discount code for your.
Yes. There you go. Yes, that'd be fantastic. Lynn, thank you so much for
Thank
this
you.
conversation. I know people will find it like really, really refreshing too. So I'm just so grateful for the work you do and for your perspective and what you're doing for like other women and marginalized groups. Like this is really important stuff, especially in an industry and like in a world where, we know the systems in place are beyond not serving anyone and are harming us. So I think really important work to keep doing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.